Welcome back to another edition of Between Two Fars. I'm Warneke Miller, and it is my pleasure to once again be working with Paul Kim and Dave Schuman. They have come off fresh from the battlefield of a really intense ASPCA litigation, and they're here to help you get some perspective on what you're having to deal with right now. We get it. You've just gotten a data dump. You're in the middle of discovery, and you cannot believe the volume of material the other side has produced in response to your discovery request, and you don't know what to do. Don't worry, the dynamic duo is here with some good advice for you. Dave, can we start with you? What do you want to say to that practitioner who just got inundated with all of this data from their discovery request?
Well, so from the big picture view, it's good to keep in mind that the most important thing in the ASPC litigation is it's the other side's burden to prove their case. So your job is to poke holes in that defense, and to do that, you want to have the right information. It does not mean you need to have every little last bit of paper, every last document, every last email. You're going to want to do that, and that feeling of apprehension that you haven't looked at everything is going to continue all the way through the time the board issues a decision. That is okay. What you need is enough material to make your points and poke holes in the other side's case. Ideally, you want to have enough legal resources, lawyers, paralegals to help you with this process that may not always be available. You're going to need some help. Feel free to try to get those resources to help you review the discovery wherever you can get them. It may be someone new to the office. It may be pulling in clients who are familiar with the material. That's a bit of a double-edged sword because the clients are going to be a little bit biased. They may miss things that they're familiar with. They may not give you incriminating documents that are in the file. But it's a huge job, and again, you should just keep in mind the big picture. Litigation is stressful. It takes a long time at the board. It's important to pace yourself. Don't feel that you need to go to sleep at night feeling 100% confident that you've looked at every piece of discovery in order to win the case. Just keep the big picture in mind.
Yes, those are words of wisdom from the battlefield. Thank you, Dave. Paul, I know that you have dealt with a lot of litigation, numerous data dumps. Do you have some practical tips for this attorney to just get started on going through data dump?
I think it's vital that, especially if this is your first, second, or even third time dealing with a data dump, immediately reach out to someone who's dealt with data dumps before, because there's a lot of efficiencies that are there if you've had experience. And so tapping into that experience is vital, because you could a small inefficiency can compound into a large inefficiency despite your best efforts and all the effort you're putting into tackling a large document dump. In this format, I just wanted to give a couple tips, and these are not all the tips. Everything's on a case-by-case basis, but when you're first reviewing the documents, you want your client to orientate you to what are the key issues of the case, obviously. But another tip that I learned as I dealt with document reviews later on is it's not so much, I mean, you can get a lot of information from doing targeted issue searches using key terms, but more importantly is I found that it's more important to do document searches filtering by date ranges, not by words. And this is something I learned much later, because especially on a litigation where the relevant facts are spread out across a period of time, you want to filter your searches to the extent possible through date ranges of when certain events occurred, because there's a lot of context is key a lot. And so things that might not seem that important, once you see the context and the exact time period they arose in, it can add a lot of clarity as to what was really going on. The other advice I have, so that's my first piece of advice, is do your targeted searches using search terms. But when you find a key controversy that arose, go out a month before, a month prior. and just look at everything in that period of time. And discovery, as you find things, that'll point you in other targeted places to look. So it's a very organic process, but tip number one, reach out to someone who's done it. And also, the way you organize your documents as you're pulling discovery is very important as well. I used to work for partners where I had the advantage of working for very experienced partners early in my career, and they did things that to me seemed like stupid or inefficient organization methods. But then later, when you got to deposition, you're like, that way. And so people who know the end game will know how to set up the documents properly and how to organize the document dump, because it is overwhelming right when you get it. And someone who's been there and seeing how the documents will actually be used at deposition and then eventual hearing can give you a lot of guidance as how you want to organize your documents, so that you're not repeating and reinventing the wheel, which, you know, even with experience, you're going to do that a lot. That's just the nature of document dumps.
Thank you guys so much. This is some heartfelt and salient advice directly from the battlefield. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's natural. Go ahead and ask for some help, especially from somebody who has been through this before. You can reach out to anybody in the legal office. I know that Dave and Paul are battle scarred, but I think they would be happy to offer some words of wisdom and encouragement if you contacted them. And at the end of the day, remember, in contract litigation for claims against the government, the burden of proof lies with the contractor. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to look at every single document to be able to win your case. Join us again next time, Between Two Fars.